Yeah, my the 3-year-old has diarrhea. She ate so much shit during Christmas that it's just dripping everywhere.
That's disgusting, man. Does she still wear diapers?
Well, no, but I got her in one today because it's like I don't want to be cleaning up underwear all day, Poor
I'm
thing.
telling you,
She got Mickey Mouse underwear from Santa and pooped in it immediately. It was horrible.
I've never seen so many sick people in my life as when I was in Iowa last week.
Yeah.
I mean, just sickness everywhere.
Well, my kid's supposed to be at like daycare the next 2 days, and I don't think I'm going to take her because it's like I know if she goes there, she's just going to get sick.
That's so my niece is 1, and she goes to daycare, and my sister-in-law and brother-in-law said that she has brought back like 5 different kinds of sickness.
Oh yeah,
over the last like 2 months, and they all get sick. And I thought at some point you'd become like immune to it, and then you wouldn't get sick. But no, they just continue to get sick over and over and over and over again.
Yep, get more sick. All right, Brock's in for Matt today.
This is Iowa Everywhere. And now it's time for Two Guys Named Chris, powered by Fareway Meat and Grocery. This is Iowa Everywhere for the fans.
I feel like the whole world is still taking today off because
it's a holiday. This is the holiday. This is the Christmas holiday.
Yeah.
There's people out though. I went to Starbucks this morning in.
Good for you. Did you get through all the snow there in South Florida?
Did you see the video that people fell for from outside Hard Rock Stadium?
Yeah.
That was not real snow. It did not snow in South Florida.
Oh, I thought it did. I fell for it too.
No, it did not flurry. No, it was fake. It was a total fake, and I feel like everybody fell for it.
Well,
Barstool tweeted it out.
We're out here, freezing our asses off. Craziest thing happened in my house on Friday night, and I've been in this house for over 10 years. It's never happened before. Where
did a ghost come in and knock some toy cars off the wall?
No, the ceiling started to freeze. It's never happened
inside your house.
Yeah, it started to frost up. My ceiling did.
What?
It has something to do with condensation in the attic with your heater and how cold it is outside. Apparently this happened to a lot of people. That's how freaking cold it was. It was horrible.
Jeez.
You were here. Right?
Oh God, it was it's so bad. But that bomb cyclone that came through, it affected weather down here in Florida. So we flew back last night, and it's cold. It never gets this cold down here. It was like 42 when we landed, and today the high is only going to be 60. It's seriously that's cold for here, man.
It's like 10 outside. It feels warm to me here.
Yeah, it was interesting on I don't know if it was Friday or Saturday. I think it was Saturday. It was so much. It was still, the wind chills were still below zero, but it was like a 30-degree difference. It went from minus 45 wind chills to like minus 10, and it felt almost bearable.
Yeah. No, I said that to my father-in-law when we were leaving Christmas Eve. It's like, God, it's like balmy out.
I can see in the background, looks like there's one of your daughters in a chair. Is that the one that's crapping all over the floors?
Yeah, that's her.
Oh boy.
Yep. She's just hanging out with Dad today.
I do want to give you a warning. There's a reason the door behind me is open. So we had to leave. We always have to leave our dog down here when we travel, and she goes to someone else's house. And so I haven't seen her in 9 days. My wife went to get her, so she's going to be returning here very soon.
Oh, wow.
And if I kept the door shut, she would burst through it. She'd try to break it down. So
I love it.
Yeah, she's going to be, I would say in the next 10, 15 minutes, she'll be running through here and causing a disturbance.
I can't wait to watch this reunion. It'll be a beautiful thing. I want to thank our sponsor, Fareway Meat and Grocery. I did the prime rib.
Oh my God, that looks amazing.
Yeah, it was really freaking good. It's the best thing I've ever made. Honestly, like
Wow.
I went crazy like researching like the bark and stuff like that. Now, the one thing I did learn is I need a better carving knife if you're going to start doing stuff like that.
Do you have a mechanical knife?
No, I'm going to get one. I was
Yeah.
reading about that. So I usually just do like ribs and pork loins and you don't need I like pork, so I generally make a lot of pork, and you don't need as good of a knife. But when you're making a plate like that, you need a better knife. So I learned that, but the taste was unbelievable. It didn't take as long as I thought it would either, because I got one of those blankets for the Traeger, and that really, insulated all the heat. But man, that cut that Fairway gave me was just unbelievable. Well, they didn't give me;
That
I
looks
paid for it.
great.
I don't want to make you jealous. Make you think that I got a free prime rib. But no, it hit the spot on Christmas Eve, and I got leftovers for like 3 days. So,
that's the best.
well, don't you do that? Because I'm like, I knew that I got way too big of a piece of meat, but I'm like, if I'm gonna go through all the trouble to make this prime rib, I want to eat it for like 4 days.
Yeah. How many pounds was it?
It was an 8-pounder.
Yeah, my dad made a couple 8-pound prime ribs because he had 2 different Christmases he had to do. One with me and my family, and one with his wife's family. But I told him, you're gonna have to switch it up, man. Because he usually for the last 25 years he's gotten a prime rib from the country club where he worked, and they have Geneva Golf and Country Club in Muscatine had a mean prime rib. I said, you're gonna have to go to Fairway now next year. Starting next year, you're going to Fairway.
Come on, Don.
And you're getting the prime rib from there.
Good.
There's no excuses.
I appreciate that.
And I was able to. Did you see? I was able to go out to Fairway.
I saw you were at the Fairway. Yeah, that looked awesome.
It was a beautiful day. Beautiful day to go out there.
Very festive with the snow in the background, and like it really looked like you were there for Christmas. That's fantastic. All right, we do have a couple. We have one heavy topic to get to today, and then we're just gonna have some fun. We got some tweets from people I thought we could respond to. We're not going to take this show too seriously, but I thought we should probably, Chris, lead with this Iowa athletics. I don't know if I call it drama. I don't really know exactly how to describe this. I'm going to give, for those people who have not been glued to their computers for the last few days, good for you. Here's the skinny. And Chris, you tell me if you think I'm missing anything here. So essentially, the director of the Iowa Swarm Collective, Brad Hendricks, and if you're watching on the stream, you see his photo here now.
I thought it was Heinrichs.
I'm sorry. Yeah, you're right. What did I call him? Heinrichs. Thank you. And that's from the Hawk Fanatic website. Pat Hardy published an article.
Wait, there's a Hawk Fanatic?
Yeah, it has no affiliation with us.
Did they just rip that from Cyclone Fanatic?
Potentially, but we don't own the word fanatic, just like you guys don't own the color black, so I'm not going to make a big deal about it. But yeah, I have nothing to do with that website. It's a lot of people think that we're associated with each other, and we're not. Tell me if you think I'm missing anything here, because a lot of fans they don't follow this. They watch the games. They don't care about this collective stuff. So we're trying to spell it out for you guys. This collective director for Iowa basically went on the message board, the Rivals message board for Iowa, and made a post about his concerns, and it came across pretty pointed towards the Iowa athletics department for, again, this is according to one man, not giving the collective things like season ticket holder emails, and basically reach to, how I read into it, some of the older fans. It's easy to reach younger fans on social media and whatnot. We often joke about the people sitting courtside at Carver Hawkeye Arena. Something tells me they're not swarming Instagram very often. So this director, Mr. Heinrichs, says that Iowa is not going to cooperate due to Title IX concerns that the collective is not, I guess, giving money to every Iowa athletic sport. You can read into that as you wish. Is that correct? And he was angry. He put out some examples like North Carolina trying to keep their quarterback. And basically, this started a whole thing on Christmas Eve from some Iowa media members saying that Iowa will get left behind if Gary Barta and the athletic department doesn't cooperate with the swarm. The reason that a guy like Gary Barta wouldn't cooperate, and it's just my opinion here, I'll get deeper into it in a minute. I think you're going to see this at a lot of places where the athletics departments still have their businesses to run. They still have to, pay for the scholarships, feed the players, pay for travel, do all the things that it costs to run up, pay salaries, all that stuff. So there's a little bit of a battle for money. And I think that you're probably seeing that across the country. The one thing that makes Iowa unique here is that it was completely brought to light by the director in a fairly hastily way. Like I don't think that this Brad Heinrichs was being passive whatsoever in how this played out. Am I missing anything here?
No, I think you hit the key points, and I think the one thing that keeps coming up is Iowa's and Gary Barta's history with Title IX, and that likely being a reason why that Iowa is it has more of a heightened sense of security, I guess, around this thing, in that he has been sued. They have not looked good in the public eye over the last 5 years, multiple times on Title IX issues, and they probably feel, and they're probably being advised by PR people and lawyers, that they should stay away from this, which it's tough to say because there's just no guide rails on this thing, but I'm going to venture to guess that the majority of major programs are going the other way, and they're turning a blind eye to this, and they're giving up this sort of information because they know it's necessary to keep up with the Joneses. But Iowa might not have that luxury because of past transgressions by Gary Barta and the athletic department, and it puts them in a really bad spot.
So I want to go back to 2017. It was the field hockey thing. And Barta and Iowa actually lost that lawsuit, correct? Am I correct there? I want to be very careful about these things because I'm not a reporter on this stuff. I go back to covering it on our radio show back in the day. And then 2021, so if you remember during COVID, Iowa axed a couple of sports. There were, I think, 4 members of the women's swimming team that sued the athletics department over Title IX concerns with that. So those are the 2 instances in the last, like you said, 5 years where Gary Barta specifically has been caught in the crosshairs with Title IX stuff. Now, what makes this interesting is that the Iowa Swarm and these collectives, they don't have to play by Title IX rules because they're these private entities that are, doing whatever it is that they do. So, listen, I think that one really good point by you, I guess I hadn't thought about it that way, that Iowa's past and specifically Gary Barta's past could be playing a key role in, potentially holding Iowa back from doing things like these. But 2, again, I think that this is probably happening at more places than we think. It's just because it's business. And it is interesting. Like, specifically at a Big Ten school, I wouldn't think it would be as big of a deal because you have this giant TV contract coming in. But you also have to remember Iowa's athletic department, and I wish I had the numbers here, was not in great shape financially after the pandemic. It wasn't flowing with cash. It was never going bankrupt or anything like that. But I would guess like there would be some Big 12 schools where you're making about half as much, a little bit more than that, or some ACC schools where these athletic departments still need that revenue, and they may be a little more, hesitant to work with these athletic departments. And then you have the whole like Learfield or rights holders things. It's like, well, are we going to give? We can't just give these collectives free advertising because it's a valuable piece of so they're going to want some from these collectives. It's just this ecosystem that I don't expect 90% of our audience to really understand this, but there is an ecosystem in college athletics that, it's the hamster wheel and it's constantly spinning. And all these pieces have to work together. The biggest difference I see here with Iowa is that you actually have the collective director who's going out and saying it. Usually these things are done behind closed doors. It's like, hey,
Right.
Gary, can we have a bourbon and talk about this? And I just wonder, I feel like there's just more to it, because for this guy, Heinrichs, to go out and do what he did, I feel like that probably wasn't like his first reaction. It just seems like a really harsh thing to go out there and put Barta and the athletics department on blast. So I'm just curious what the last 3 weeks have been like in that chair. I think it's really interesting.
And I think that from everything that I've heard and read about it, the athletic department isn't telling or trying to tell this collective what they can and should do with their money. It sounds to me like the athletic department is just saying, do your thing. We don't want any part of it. We don't want to get mixed up in this. They're not saying, at least from what I've read in the reporting from Pat Hardy and David Eichholt and all that, they're not saying you need to give all this money and spread it around to all the women's sports equally. They're just not giving up the information that the high rollers, the donors, they're not giving out their contact information. They're just not playing ball, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And they're not letting the donors decide where their money wants. It is difficult. So if you're Heinrichs or if you're Bloom with Iowa State, it's easy to reach guys our age.
Yeah.
Put some promoted tweets out there, like it will be difficult to reach that lady who's knitting in the third row at Carver Hawkeye Arena.
If you're that lady, though, okay, the lady that knits in the third row and that has donated the athletic department,
who's worth more than like 500 guys like us.
Do you want the athletic department giving up your contact info, your email address, to a third-party collective who just wants more of your money? Do you want that?
It's going to depend on the type of fan. I think some fans don't give a shit. They just want Cade McNamara. Right?
I think some fans would be really upset if...
And then some fans are like what you're saying.
That they've probably already given a lot of money, and then there's someone else that's going to be coming in that maybe they don't know anything about that's going to be asking them for more money to pay the players.
It's a fascinating. We're in the smack dab in the middle of this total change, and we're watching it from the front row.
Because you're this donor, and you've given. Let's just say you're one of the bigger donors.
You've given
season
millions
tickets for football and basketball, and you've given a lot of money to this athletics department that is now making more money than it ever has, and it continues to rise with all the. I mean, they're going to make probably $100 million just in media rights next year with the Big Ten's new deal and newcomers coming in to the Big Ten Conference. And now you're going to be asked to not only continue to give to the athletics department, to pay the coaches, to pay for facility upgrades, you're also going to be asked to pay the players. It's ridiculous But that's a different. I think that's a different conversation. It's just that's the place that we're at right now. It's messed up. These athletic departments, these schools, should be the ones that have to pay these players. It should not fall on the fans
or the conference. Yeah.
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 Well, these schools are part of the conference.
Yeah. Absolutely.
It should not fall on the fans to pay these players. All the money that these athletic departments and these schools are bringing in right now.
This is a deal. I'm just going to give a little comparison. And again, I don't expect this to I hope I can make it make sense. But when I used to, back where I'm from, okay, and no making fun of it, like this is a real thing back home when I was back there covering sports and in the media, is there were these, Chris, you have like these schools where like my wife graduated from a school, her graduating class had like 12 people in it or something like that. Okay. So you have these tiny schools that cost way more to run than they are worth as far as enrollment goes, right? And it was always a thing where you had some schools that would totally dig in these towns, and they would just fight for their freedom in this decision or whatever. And then there were some who were proactive and said, you know what, we're going to get out there and we're going to do a co-op here with another town that we want to work with, and we're going to get ahead of this before the big bad wolf can come in. Hey, she's Puppy's back. Home. Puppy's home. Puppy.
Hi. Here she is.
Man, she'd like some of that prime rib that I got that leftover up there.
Oh yeah.
There were a lot of these schools that were like, okay, we're gonna create a fix here before the state of Iowa can come in and put us in a situation that we don't want to be in. And what I see here, and then you had some who dug in, and then the state came in and shut them down, and they hated the situation that they had to be in. What I see here is for 20 years, you had the old men and the Blazers. Okay, I'm always going to go back to the old men and the Blazers. And they fought, and they kicked, and they screamed, and they refused to move on with the world. Oh, we're starting to get, it goes back to 1985, Oklahoma, the Supreme Court. And when these TV rights started to balloon into what they have become now. And we still have the same rules. Think about that. Nothing has changed. As far as now, some things have tiptoed along the way, like cost of attendance. And it's much better off to be a student athlete now than it was 15 years ago. I will give the leaders that. But what I see here is I see the leaders in the NCAA in these institutions and these conferences, and they are the school that refuse to move with the times. They refuse to co-op. They refuse to see what was happening in front of them, and they fought it. And now they're going to be in a situation that they don't want to deal with. And here we are, where we have these leaders like this Heinrichs guy, like that thing. Do a public opinion poll. People want Gary Barta fired over this, right? And he can't really come out and talk. Like, there's a lot more with Barta.
The majority of Iowa fans have wanted Gary Barta out for a long time. He is not going to win any popularity contests with Iowa fans, and that was before this.
Do you see my point, though?
Yes. If
the industry would have just given more 10 years ago, they wouldn't be in the spot that they're in now. Because Barta and Pollard Pollard specifically is in a tough spot when you look at revenue coming in through the TV. Barta, I could run that athletic department financially with the checks that they're going to be getting. Okay, you could do it. Like, they're going to be so rich with these new deals but like, think of it this way. Like, if you're Pollard or Barta, I still have to do everything that I've always done. Right. And in fact, like, if you're Iowa, it should get better. Right. Like the flights should be better. The food should be better. The training that these players should be better if you're getting more money. The facility, you can't just quit adding to the facilities, even though I would make the argument that NIL is like what facilities were 15 years ago. You still have to do all that stuff. And now, you got this paying the player thing, and it is a real point of contention, I think, across the country. I have a friend who is not at Iowa State, I'll put it that way, who's a head basketball coach in the SEC, who was telling me about the infighting between football and basketball that is going on, where there's only so much money to go around, and it's very challenging. All of these entities where is Gary Barta wrong here? Yeah, if you want to go 12-0 and compete with the SEC, he's wrong. But he also has all this stuff to worry about that these other entities don't necessarily understand. It's a very complicated situation. I would land on the side of the collectives here because I just think that that's going to be more important to winning games in the next 5 years than, getting an Xbox in the locker room.
Yeah.
But, man, it's complicated. It's a very complicated situation.
Because there are people, as you said, that are only going to donate a certain amount of money, whether it's to the athletic department or to the collective. So if the collective gets a hold of this donor and they're going to get a chunk of that, maybe all of that, and the athletic department maybe won't get that check from that person anymore, or at least not as much money as they. So I think that they do in some ways, they do compete, but at the same time, it's a necessary evil. And as you talked about, getting left behind. That's what Iowa fans, and that's what I think a lot of fans are worried about. If you do play these games and you do not cooperate with one another, you risk losing out on players and getting left behind by the universities and programs and collectives and athletic departments who will do that. And there's always going to be some that will stretch the boundaries a little bit.
No doubt.
But Iowa is in a really tough spot because of what happened in recent history. And Gary Barta, I'm sure, knows that even though maybe some other schools are doing it, if he does it and he gets another strike against him in a Title IX court,
you're saying, Chris,
he's done.
You're saying, Chris, that like if you're potentially in Barta's shoes, the fear here would be if we look like we are endorsing an anti-Title IX collective. Like, even though they're not doing it, even just the fact if like it looks like we're endorsing it, that could be a problem. Is that's your thought?
Yes.
Yeah.
Whether it's legally or just from a PR standpoint.
Yeah, because I don't think if Iowa gave this swarm season ticket holders, like, I don't think that is a violation of Title IX at all. And I don't think anyone's trying to make that argument. But you're saying from like a PR standpoint based on the last 5 years.
Well, I look at it as the 3 strikes and you're out, speeding ticket.
Yeah.
So I used to get speeding tickets a lot. And I almost looked at it like, oh, well, if I haven't had a speeding ticket this year, I can drive fast. You know, I'm good. I'm going to go in a 65. I'm going to go 80, 85, and I'll feel okay about it because I have a couple strikes to get. But if I'm already sitting there with 2 strikes, 2 speeding tickets, and I know that the next one I get, I could lose my license, even though everybody else is going 80, I can't. I need to be really careful because of what I did in the past. And I just can't risk that. And I think that's what Gary Barta is dealing with right now.
It's complex. Yeah, I might try and do a show, and you're welcome to join me on it if you want, where I'd interview Bloom and this Brad Heinrichs, because I just think it's interesting to get their perspective.
It really is.
I would like to do a long form.
The problem is how much, because there's things that these guys can't say publicly. It's because because there's no guide rails, and it's all the way this thing came together. They can't be totally transparent if they're going to successfully run these organizations and keep Iowa and Iowa State up with the Kansases and Wisconsins of the world. You can't say, you have to really choose your words carefully because you could get in trouble. Because they're saying right now, like, okay, we're not paying Cade McNamara $300,000. What we're doing is we're hooking him up with a business they're going to trade. He's going to do things for that business, and that business is paying. You can't be honest. You can't say, well, we came up with $300,000, and I'm not saying that's exactly the number, and that's just going into his pocket for nothing, but it's not what they have to make it seem.
The thing for me is, because what's going to happen, it looks like, and this was alluded to in Hardy's piece, and like I think that they want like a stipend or a salary, essentially, for every player on football, men's and women's basketball. Like that alone. And I actually think that's the best way to do it. Really good podcast with Stansberry and Bohannon last week, if you guys are interested in this. I mean, I told Jared, I had a beer with Jared, I'd love to be in the middle of this conversation because those guys are so much younger than me. Jordan comes at it from a student-athlete perspective. Jared just comes at it very pro player, and it's really interesting because I'm like 50-50 here. I'm literally the guy in the middle. And I see it differently. But if you pay every player, like if they're all getting something, then it's much more like the NFL model, like where, like if you're the third string quarterback, if you're Josh Rosen, who's on the Vikings practice squad, you're not as valuable as.
Right. Well, that's the thing. Like,
have you ever interviewed a college basketball player in your time in the media who doesn't think that they're going to the NBA? They all do. Like, right. Like, if every one of these guys is making like a base salary. And I know that was the case a lot of places in college basketball last year and in football as well. That's already pay per play. That's bullshit. That's not name, image, and likeness.
Exactly.
They don't all have this. Caitlin Clark has more name, image, and likeness value than every member of Iowa's football offense. I truly believe that. If I were a business, I would rather have Caitlin Clark than anybody on Iowa's football team. On the offense specifically, probably Jack Campbell. You get into that conversation, maybe, I don't know. But I'd rather have Caitlin Clark.
No, I think it's her above any other.
Her name, image, and likeness is worth more than maybe every guy on that football team, and that's not a slight at Iowa football. You've got to, she's the Steph Curry of women's basketball right now, by all means.
But
right?
she's getting the same stipend as some girl off the bench who I've never heard of.
Yeah.
Why am I like? Why would people give money to that? Why would they want that? Like, if I'm giving money to a collective, I don't want my money being spread around equally. I want it being used for a specific purpose for the people that need. Well, I'm not need the money, but the people that need the money to entice them to come, like the Cade McNamara in the transfer portal, like someone who is actually worth that. And we're not talking worth it in they work hard, they deserve money, that sort of thing. But if I'm somebody that's donating to a collective, I want it to go somewhere specific. I don't want it to be spread out among everybody. Because like you said, Josh Rosen on the Vikings practice squad, why would he make the same amount as Kirk Cousins?
Yeah, and that's the thing.
He doesn't.
When these guys get to the pros, they're all wealthy, right? Like they're all. And they know by that point in their career, the world has beaten you upside the head enough where you kind of know where you stand for the most part. And if you don't, there's a union. You can hold out. Like there's all sorts of stuff you can do. In college basketball specifically, I have never interviewed an Iowa State player who didn't think that he was the next LeBron James. They all think that they are. Now, eventually the world gets to him. Right now, if I talk to Caleb Grill, no, Caleb Grill, like to him, being able to put on that uniform and go out there and play on Big Monday and play in an NCAA, he is getting his master's degree so he can be a high school basketball coach, okay? That's what he wants to do because he's a fifth-year guy and he's figured it out. I've never met a freshman who didn't think that they were the next Michael Jordan. And I don't know. Now I'm on my soapbox. This is fascinating to me. I can't wait to have these conversations with you over the next few years because it's going to change so much. But this this collective guy going on the message board, it was incredible. Like, if you're interested in the business of this, and I would just love to hear Gary Barta respond to this. I don't think he can. We'll see what happens. Do you have anything else to add to this?
The whole thing is so messy, every single aspect of it. And we're going to learn things over the course of the next several weeks, months, and years that we won't even, like right now, we're not even thinking about.
Well, like when this thing happened, that July 1, we had no idea that these collectives would even be a thing, right?
Right.
Like,
and
we thought like it was going to be some guys selling some T-shirts and autographs.
Well, that's what it was supposed to be.
Yeah.
That's what NIL is. It's the ability for Jordan Bohannon to go out to a car wash and sign car wash tokens for people to take a picture with somebody washing their car and get paid for your name and image and likeness and have a jersey with your name on it. But it is not that. It's that and pay for play.
Yeah.
When you're paying people just because they're on the team.
Yeah, and what these collectives would say to get around that is because they're taking the checks, they are required to be at our beck and call because this charity we need somebody to come out. Like, that's how they get around it. And too is the difference. Like, we're part of the problem. Maybe not we're part of the problem. Maybe we're the solution. Do you think that there's like bloggers around like Georgia asking these questions right now? Hell no.
No, they don't care. I mean,
no. And that's what we're up against is Iowa and Iowa State fans. Because nobody gives a shit down there. Do you think Ohio State fans are worried about this? No. Like, they just want
they just want to make sure they're paying more than Michigan.
Yeah. And I think that that's the point of a lot of these Iowa fans who are upset with all of this stuff that has come out. And I'm going to say like allegedly come out because I don't know. I have no idea. I haven't FOIA'd Gary Barta to see if he's, said no, we will not. I have no idea. It's just a really, really interesting. If you're interested in any of this politics, business, college sports, like this is your kind of story. I hope that our teams can figure it out. Everybody, at the end of the day, my last take on this, everybody's got to be on the same page as much as possible. That's the way to win right now. You can't have infighting within these groups. You've got to have some synergy. And hopefully Iowa can figure that out.
Yeah, and I think the problem is that Iowa athletic department doesn't feel like they're in a position where they can do that right now.
So I was thinking about this over the weekend. So the Circa, they're having their Survivor. They call it the Circa Million, their Survivor contest. Do you know what an NFL Survivor pool is, Chris? You know what that is, right?
Oh, yeah. Yep.
So I'm so pissed at myself. I got in one this year. I was having beers with one of my advertisers for Always Race Day, and he invited me to be in his Survivor thing. I'm still in it. Going into week 17. Like, I'm killing it this year. It's me and one other guy are left, okay?
And how much money is on the line here? What are we talking?
I don't know. I'm guessing at $700-800, something like that. Like a nice payday, but like,
yeah.
Wouldn't it be fun if we did an entry together in the Circa Million next year?
How much do we have to pay to get in?
I don't know what it costs, but wouldn't that be fun?
It would be fun depending on what it costs.
Wouldn't that be fun?
If you're like, well, we're gonna have to get $20,000 together.
Did you watch the Raiders game on Christmas Eve? Raiders Pittsburgh at all?
No, I did not see that game. Okay. I was at my my mom's family's Christmas, and they had the Christmas Story 24-hour marathon rolling.
I actually had Pittsburgh in my Survivor, so they pull it out of their ass and win this thing in the last minute, and I'm still alive, so I'm fired up. I'm going for Pittsburgh here. If Oakland would have won, or not Oakland, if Vegas would have won, sorry,
yeah,
man, I'm sounding like the old guy in this pod. This one guy would have won it, and he would have won like $6.2 million in the Circa, and like Oakland had control of this thing the whole game. They lost it in the last minute. And now it's down to like 4 guys tonight, but I couldn't help but feel. Could you imagine sitting there on Christmas Eve? You're at Don Hassel's house, team that you have $6 million riding on. All they have to do is finish it out over the last 2 minutes, and you win $6 million. And it was kind of a fluky way that they lost the game. This poor bastard is all I could think of this whole time. All he had to do was have Vegas finish it, and then he goes away with nothing. He wins nothing.
How about all the people that survived and have survived maybe with the Vikings this year?
Oh, God. There were 4 guys that had the Vikings when they were down 33-0.
And then a 61-yard field goal to win it this week. I mean, I don't see them doing anything in the playoffs.
I don't either.
That they'll probably end up.
They might be at home for 2 games.
They might end up hosting the Packers in the first round.
Stop! Don't even bring it up.
I'd love to see that.
Don't even talk about it.
And give me the Packers.
Don't even talk about it. Would you rather play the Packers or the Lions? The Lions. The Lions. You would, but the Lions play Minnesota so well. I don't know. I almost think I'd rather play the Packers in a weird way. Lions slipped up this week.
If you want to play the Packers, lose to them this week.
Well, do you know what that sets up, though? If the Packers would beat the Vikings this week, then it's the Packers and because the Lions get the Bears this week, so we're going to assume that they'll win that one. The Lions get the Bears at home. If the Packers would beat the Vikings, it'll be the Lions versus the Packers in Week 18. Winner goes to the playoffs to play Minnesota.
Dude, when's the last time the Lions won a playoff game?
Barry Sanders.
And look how bad they can be. I mean, they were just destroyed by the Panthers. Right now, you don't want any part of a Packers team that started 1-6 or whatever they were and ends up getting into the playoffs with Aaron Rodgers. You gotta beat them this week.
I don't have a lot of faith that that's going to happen.
I don't either. I think the Packers will blow them out. I think it's going to be an absolute bloodbath. But we're forgetting the Washington Commanders here.
I want them. Bring them on. That's who I want to play in the first round. The Vikings would beat them.
The last playoff spot. The Commanders have the last wild card spot at 7-7-1, and then you got the Lions and Packers and Seahawks at 7-8.
Well, the Lions and Packers will take care of each other. Who does Washington play the next 2 weeks? I think that they have a fairly tough schedule.
The Commanders host the Browns and then they host the Cowboys.
Okay,
but that Cowboys game might not mean anything.
The Cowboys may not play anybody in that game.
So if the Commanders win those games, they're in.
Thanks to Phil Parker's paw, 92, the Lions beat the Packers.
That's their last playoff win?
Yeah, Ross on YouTube. When the Vikings lose in the playoffs, which direction will the game-winning field goal miss? Can't necessarily dispute that. I don't know why. I had a weird feeling the other day that he was going to make that 61-yarder, and it just felt like
I did too. I think that the improvement of the kickers in the NFL has made the games less interesting.
Really?
Yes.
I think it's fascinating now that you can just roll a guy out there for 65 yards and give it a shot.
No.
Interesting.
I think because anything under 50 yards is just it's in, and these guys can make 60-plus yard field goals now. It has just the field is almost too short because.
Do you remember
these late game situations where all you need is a field goal, you don't have to do much at all to get in field goal range?
Well, when we were kids, remember that Morton Anderson record felt like it was untouchable?
The 63-yarder?
Yeah, like, oh my God, could you imagine guy kicking it that far?
Well, who was the guy that originally did that? The guy that kicked with the barefoot. I'm sure our older, was this Dempsey or something?
I have no idea.
He had it he was a Saints kicker as well. He had that 63-yarder.
I'll say this about my Vikings. People can shit on them all they want, and I'm fine with it because I don't think that they're that good either. But when you get to the point when you're 12-3 and you do win these games, you have to give them some credit. Like they
Yeah, you give them credit for winning these regular season games. I just don't see them.
They're going to be one and done. They'll be one and done in the playoffs, I think.
I think they could if they play the Commanders, or the Giants in that first round. I think that they should win that game.
Can we
but
tap the brakes? Like, who will you look it up? Who have the Packers beaten on this run? Tua was out there. He looked like Taylor Martinez in Nebraska, or Adrian Martinez, named Martinez in Nebraska, in the fourth quarter the other day. Like, who are the Packers really beaten during this stretch?
During this stretch?
Yes.
Well, they just beat the Dolphins.
Okay.
Rams, Bears.
Suck.
And Cowboys.
It's a good win.
Earlier in the season, they beat the Bucks, Patriots, but hey, they played the Eagles tough too. They only lost by 7 to the Eagles. I'm just telling you, you don't want those. Packers.
I don't want that smoke. I know that. Like, I'm not.
I mean,
Tom
would you rather play the Packers or the Commanders?
I would rather play the Commanders, no doubt.
Of course.
Give me Heineke versus Aaron Rodgers.
Mm-hmm.
No question. So this guy did the math on Twitter because somebody was tweeting at me about being an Iowa State and a Vikings fan. So this well done at Dunn, DUNN9T9 on Twitter, he looked it up. This is incredible. In the last 2 seasons, 39 one-score games combined for Iowa State football and the Vikings. And you wonder why I put on weight, my hair's getting gray, I'm crankier than normal, I've turned into very much of a pessimist in this life that I live, and you wonder why. That's an incredible
out of how many games? Probably 60 games?
I mean, you got Iowa State played 13 last year, so it's a little less than 60, actually.
Jeez. Yeah.
And they lost all their one-score games last year. The Vikings did, and they're winning them all now.
Somebody said if you flip all of the one-score games, if you flip the result of the one-score games, the Vikings would have 2 wins and the Bears would have like 11 or something like that.
No, we'd have like the top pick in the draft.
I think everything's going perfect for the Bears.
Oh yeah,
they've got a shot now. They've got a shot to get the number 1 pick. They're only a half game behind the Texans.
Yeah,
if the Bears lose their last 2 and the Texans win one of those, the Bears are going to have the top pick.
The Bears are in a really good spot to make a run if they can.
I would shut down Justin Fields. He's done so much running this year. Shut him down. Don't play him these last 2 games.
He's really good. He's really good. The Bears are a team that I hate them. They're one of my least favorite teams in sports, but man, I watch them because of Justin Fields.
Mm-hmm. He wasn't right this weekend though. He did not look right. I don't know if he was more injured than they let on, but he was not running at all. I don't know what happened. He looked really good against the Eagles, but
it was like 40 below.
Yeah, but come on. It was cold against the Eagles, too.
So our guy, Brock Purdy, continues to be maybe the hottest sports figure in the world right now. I don't think I'm overstating anything when I say that.
He's becoming a cult hero.
Yeah, I mean, he really is. He was simply awesome. He threw 2 touchdown passes to our guy, George Kittle. And these guys are – Purdy's kind of like invigorated Kittle a little bit. He's targeting him so much. Brock Bierman is producing the program today. I think he's got the audio of this is what Brock Purdy had to say after the game.
I think he makes my job easy. You know, he wins the man-to-man matchups. Obviously, like his speed and everything. If you just get the dude the ball, he'll take off. Like George is extremely explosive, more than people think. And he does a great job with the yards after the catch. And so that's where my mindset's at is, all right, whatever play we have drawn up, I'm going to go through my progression. But I know that if I get the ball to George, you know, it could be an explosive. So yeah, I'm extremely fortunate to have him by my side, and wish I would have had him catch that third touchdown. I threw it a little short, but just can't get a Hawkeye too many touchdowns in a game. So
that's good. It's fun. I love watching the 49ers now. It's a blast. But having both of those guys, and then Purdy is such a good story. So we got a tweet to both of us from Jake, and I wanted to address this because I think it's a fascinating conversation. He says, serious question. Let's say that Purdy playing well and the 49ers make it to the conference final or even the Super Bowl. Does the organization go with Purdy at that point instead of Trey Lance next year? I'm a Hawkeye fan, but I'm happy to see Purdy have his success. Merry Christmas. There's a little bit of a Drew Bledsoe, Tom Brady feel here. I know we're very, very, very early in this scenario, but if Brock Purdy would lead them to the Super Bowl, I don't know how you just cut him, right? What do you think, Hassel?
It's so difficult because of what they invested in Trey Lance. Like, let's forget about Jimmy Garoppolo for a second. Veteran quarterback. They wanted to move on from him anyway. If they make it to the Super Bowl with Brock Purdy this offseason, I think you have to figure out a way to maybe trade Trey Lance.
Yes.
Get something for him. Or trade Brock Purdy. You probably can't do that because he doesn't make enough money. And you've got him on your roster basically for free, which is a great position for San Francisco to be in. But we've really never seen a situation like this. You referenced the Drew Bledsoe, Tom Brady thing from 20-plus years ago. But Bledsoe was a veteran quarterback.
Yes.
Trey Lance, I mean, they have invested a lot of time and money in him. And it's going to be hard to move on from that this quickly, even if Brock Purdy continues to play the way he's playing. So it's going to be fascinating. It really is, to see what San Francisco does. But if Purdy continues to play like this and they get to the Super Bowl, I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't know how you go to Trey Lance. I really don't. I don't know how you stick with that guy because he hasn't been able to stay healthy, first of all.
The good
and
thing
even when he's been healthy, he hasn't done anything yet. He hasn't proven anything.
I still think there'd be a market for him. There's
definitely going to be a market for him. I think you'd be able to get some
but not
good
what
trade
you
value
gave up.
for him.
Yeah,
absolutely not. And that's the problem. A lot of these general managers and teams, they look at what they gave up to get somebody. They look at what they're paying somebody and what they saw in him, and they can't just cut bait. They see that as a reflection on them, that they're admitting they made a huge mistake, even though they were able to get Brock Purdy with the last pick in the draft, and he leads them on a magical run. Trey Lance would be a stain on them. So that
I think Brock, I don't know about you, boy, he's in the perfect spot, the perfect offense. He's being asked to do exactly what situates his strengths. And I think it would be really unfortunate for him if he was the one to get traded. This feels to me like if Brock could somehow catch on with Kyle Shanahan for the next 10 years, Brock's looking at probably the best career in the history of Iowa State players in the NFL. If he could somehow think about that, if Breece Hall doesn't get hurt, Iowa State could have had perhaps the two best rookies in the NFL this year. And then you look back, how the hell did you go 7-5 last year? But that's a whole other conversation. It's fun to watch. It feels to me like Brock, I don't think this is a fluke. I don't think that he's gonna. I'll eat crow. I whiffed. I thought they would lose to Seattle. I thought it would come crashing back down. This to me looks like nobody in that organization seems surprised in the least about what Brock is doing, and I think that he will lead them deep into the playoffs. Now, again, I think a lot of it has to do with fit, and that's okay. I mean, that happens in this league all the time. Think about back in the day when David Carr gets drafted by the Texans, right? Like, well, if he what if Mahomes is great, but he went to Andy Reid and he had this great offense around him. He got to learn under Alex Smith for a year. That matters in this league, and you got to take advantage when you have your opportunity, and Brock's doing that.
The 49ers have the fourth shortest odds to win the Super Bowl, behind only the Bills, Eagles, and Chiefs. 49ers are plus 550 to win the Super Bowl. They have the second shortest odds to win the conference. Eagles are the NFC favorites, plus 170. Then it's the 49ers at 2-1, plus 200.
It's fun. It's fun stuff. Hey, shout out before we move on to the next topic to our friends at Iowa Corn and the Iowa Corn Farmers here in the great state of Iowa. We appreciate their support of two guys named Chris and, of course, everybody here at Iowa Everywhere. We're getting some great sponsors, and I love having the ag tie to what we're doing here. Iowa Everywhere. Clearly, what do you think of when you think of our state? And that is agriculture. So shout out to the Iowa Corn Farmers. The Iowa Corn Growers Association, thank you for sponsoring us here on Two Guys Named Chris. The last thing I had for you today, did you see these the UFOs in Las Vegas? Look at this. So Brock's got the video. This was seen earlier this week over the Sapphire Gentlemen's Club in Las Vegas. I want you to watch when these probes cross each other and there's a reflection that bounces off something solid, Hassel, that is just hanging over the sky. What do you think this is?
I don't know. Is it a satellite? I know.
What the hell would a satellite be driving around for? Doesn't make any sense.
Well, I mean, come on. This is Las Vegas, okay?
Okay. Yeah.
It's a low-hanging cloud.
In Nevada, there's been a lot of nuclear testing there over the years. This is we often see in these types of
But don't
scenarios.
You think there would be a lot more video of this?
There is.
There was like one video. And it's like these bouncers outside a strip joint looking up at a low-hanging cloud. I don't know.
It's a UFO.
Okay, sure, it's a UFO. A UFO is an unidentified flying object. A UFO does not mean there's aliens hanging above there, ready to come on down and see Destiny perform on the stage.
All I know is that when you watch this video, and if you're listening on the podcast, you need to go and go to.
Do you think this is like overwhelming proof that aliens exist?
No, but I think it's. I think you're right with the I don't know. I think you need to knock it off right now with the whole, it's just a bunch of guys. And this is not doctored. Like, there's clearly something in the sky in this photo. And I want to know what it is. What is the red part? And what is the thing reflecting off of us when the probes from the Sapphire Gentlemen's Club, the world's largest gentlemen's club, what is this? I think we're staring at there's been a lot of movement, Hassel. There's been a lot of movement with these UFOs and whatnot over the last couple of years. Feels like the CIA and the government's getting a little bit of loosey-goosey. I think this is much like NIL and the collective conversation this is developing by the day. I think that the next half decade in spacecraft, alien spacecraft is going to be something to watch here on planet Earth.
Do you think we're going to have to start paying the aliens too?
It's not going to be
a collective to pay the aliens.
I'll tell you this: it's not going to be our decision. If they want paid, they're going to take it. They're going to come and take it.
Do you have any idea how big the universe is?
Yeah, it's really, really big.
You can't even fathom how big it is.
Yeah. Yeah. So you're arrogant enough to think that we're the only ones here.
I'm not saying that.
So what
I'm
is
not
this
saying
over
that.
the Gentleman's Club in Las Vegas?
A drone.
Drone.
Yeah. Why can't it be a drone?
Did you see how that thing was shaped? What kind of a drone is that?
I don't know.
Keep denying it. Keep burying your head in the sand. That's okay.
When are they going to ever come down? Are they just going to
You
hang
think-
up there?
You honestly think they haven't come down at this point? You're crazy. You think that they haven't? They're already here, man. They're so technologically advanced. They could be in your house right now, and you don't even know
So
it.
do you believe the old lady that says that she was abducted and taken into a spacecraft and had a probe implanted into her rectum? You believe those people?
I would have to do a little
Inspect the
research
rectum?
on the lady. Here's the deal. I think that a lot of these people are crazy. I don't think they all are
What scares you more, ghosts or aliens?
aliens, because I don't think a ghost could like do anything to me.
Uh-huh.
Like I really think if there's a being from another planet, they could do whatever they want to us. It's over. It's over at that point. Just my opinion. Merry Christmas.
They could just wipe us out.
Just my opinion. What do you? When
don't
you
know,
think of
man.
this stuff, the old lady and the rectum is really the first thing that comes to your mind.
Well, yeah, because all those old people that on Unsolved Mysteries that I was sitting there in my recliner and I saw a shadowy figure and he beamed me up into his spacecraft and the next thing I knew my butt hurt.
Is that a real episode?
Yeah. That's how every episode went.
And then William Shatner.
And now
it
when I
went
walk
into
through,
her rectum.
when I walk through a metal detector, they don't know what it is, but I set it off because they put something in my bum.
Stacy's watching on YouTube, and she wants to suggest that perhaps Brock Purdy is an alien.
Oh, see, look at Chris Moon. Chris Moon says, the solid in the sky reflects, the projections, the colors are not sold. Suggests a drone, which is what I said. Or not solid is what he meant to say, not sold, solid.
Darius on YouTube says that he was beamed up by aliens. And the next thing he knows, Bloom was asking for money in the hunt for Hunter Deckers.
Bloom was up there in the spacecraft.
These collectives are going to have their own spacecrafts where they're just abducting people to take their money. God. All right. We'll be back on Thursday. We'll do some heavy Iowa bowl game stuff.
Jeez, yeah, it's bowl week for the Hawks,
Yep,
right?
And then playoffs. Yeah. I'm going to do probably tomorrow, listen, I'm not calling them locks, nothing like that, but just some thoughts on these games because I've been studying them, and we'll see how I do as far as my picks go. That's coming up. Jordan and J-Bo say that they are doing a podcast this week, so look forward to that. Is conference basketball is just around the corner. Iowa already started it, obviously, but Iowa State has Baylor on Saturday.
Yeah, New Year's Eve is going to be a busy day with Iowa State
Really?
playing Baylor, the Iowa Bowl game, and the playoff, college football playoff. What? Phil Parker's pa asks if I could do the next show in my creepy pedophile voice. Which one is my pedophile voice?
Is that the Bloom voice, or is that the old lady in the chair facing the rectal
know
probe
which
from
one's
the
my-
alien?
I don't know which one's the pedophile voice. My mom said that she used to, when I was a kid, tell me about, you don't go in a stranger's car. Don't do it. And I would always say, but what if he has baseball cards? I'll go if he has baseball
and
cards.
candy.
I didn't care about candy. I just wanted the baseball cards. Hi, little boy. I've got a nice Ryan Sandberg rookie card for you if you hop on in.
Yeah, we need to end the show. But Phil's Parker's boss says the old lady anal probe voice, that's your pedophile voice. I don't know what that just was, but we got to end the show. Appreciate you doing this on an off day, Hassel. And look, girls, I have 2 daughters just sitting here waiting for me to be done. They're waving at the camera now.
Hi.
Yeah, they're ready to go. But we'll be back on Thursday. I don't know what time. Well, you have to work Thursday, right? So we'll be normal time.
Yeah, I'm back to work
8:30.
tomorrow. I'm gonna have to shave. I haven't shaved in a week.
Okay. Yeah, so that's
But
the
yeah,
schedule.
back regular time tomorrow,
Yeah.
or regular time
Thursday.
on Thursday.
And we're not really changing much up here because it's such a busy weekend of sports. So we're not taking shows off or anything like that. So thanks, guys, for listening. We appreciate it. Thanks to Fareway, our presenting sponsor here on Two Guys Named Chris. He's Chris Hassel. I'm Chris Williams. Have a great rest of your